Welcome back to the channel Shred Gang and to today's very special video. I basically just came home from playing a festival show here in Vienna, Austria. I could only sleep for around 2 or 3 hours because it was a quite exciting show. So since playing live is pretty much the ultimate test for any guitar player, there are no second takes, no second chances, and it never goes as planned, I prepared 2 takes for you from the exact same guitar solo at the exact same festival and location, but they are 5 years apart. So with this video I'd like to go into the most important details when it comes to my technique, to playing live in general, really analyzing all the tiny details and differences with those 2 different takes. And this will hopefully show you that working with a practice routine and sticking to the exercises that we're discussing each week on Patreon and here on YouTube really pays off. So shred over that like button in case you're excited for this. This greatly pleases the YouTube algorithm, as you know. And in case you're still not subscribed and the real part of our YouTube community, make sure to do that right now so that you don't miss the next exercises, progress videos and all of that good stuff. Okay, so let's start with the older video from 2016. As you can see, I weighed a bit more back then, but let's see if that actually also affected the sound. The song is called Sperrstund ist by the Austrian pop rock band called Seiler und Speer. But without talking too much, let's dive right in. Dark. Okay, then the guys are singing again and then I'm playing another guitar solo. So let's skip to that one. Okay, so I think you have an idea of how it was back then. But before we go into all those really interesting details, let's check out the new clip right away from yesterday. Yeah, the fire, oh man. Okay, so this is the singing part in between. I'm gonna skip ahead to the second guitar solo. Wow. Yeah, those flames were pretty high, and as you can see, the wind was causing them to move strangely. Okay, here's the second solo. Okay. Yeah, the squeal, obviously. Okay, cool. So I think that was a bit better. I hope that you will agree with me right here. But there are multiple very important topics and reasons behind it that I would like to get into a little bit. By the way, make sure to share a comment right now with our YouTube community concerning your last live performance. I really hope that you got a chance to do it again after this pretty crazy year. I think the first obvious thing is actually the guitar sound. If you compare the old recording to the new recording, both of these recordings are soundboard recordings, so straight out of the soundboard that was used for the television broadcast. So with the older take from 2016. I actually had a really thin kind of guitar sound, not a lot of power to it. And this was actually at a stage where the band was getting a lot bigger. We were playing for around, I think, 110,000 people at this occasion. So we moved out of those club shows pretty quickly to play very big festival shows and stadium shows and all of that fun stuff. But it took a while for our equipment to adapt to that situation. I think you even might be able to see it in this frame. I was actually playing a Digitech multi-effect processor. I'm not sure which model exactly, but it's not really what you bring for shows like that. So that's the first and obvious thing. I'm not really a big fan of the sound with the older take. Yeah, and that's the next thing. As you can see, I wasn't wearing in-ear headphones. I think we used traditional monitoring back then. And it's very difficult on big stages like that when you don't really hear that well what you're doing. And my picking motion was always very, very big. And also my fretting hand movements, because I felt like I had to dig in really, really hard to get those notes to sound. And my picking hand and fretting hand weren't really synchronized back then. I was just picking very hard and very fast, and I was moving my fretting hand along, and it probably sounded okay out there. But now when you're analyzing the recording, you can hear that it's not exactly synced up. So let's listen to that section once more. Yeah. And I also didn't really get that last bend to sound like I wanted it to sound. I think those were my personal biggest challenges when it came to stepping out of clubs and onto bigger stages. Of course, I was quite nervous playing for such a big crowd and on TV simultaneously. So I think I was kind of cramping up a bit and just picking excessively, and it doesn't exactly sound relaxed or controlled. So in the second half of the solo, there's a lot of pretty wild stuff and tapping and fast alternate picking and all of that in there. But I think it sounds pretty chaotic, and it doesn't really fit the song that well. And of course he's talking over my solo. I think it's very chaotic and not exactly controlled, and it doesn't really contribute that much to the song. Let's listen to the newer version once again. It simply sounds much more controlled, and I think you can hear that I'm really trying to relax as I'm playing, even with the cameras are pointed on me and the big spotlight and all of that stuff and the fire going off in front of me. Right now my absolute biggest goal is really staying relaxed as I'm playing live, because I don't really like the sound anymore of going for really big and uncontrolled picking movements. I want it to sound clean and well defined, and I think you can also hear that with the second take. So aside from the bendings and all those small fragile details, I think the most tricky section of this guitar solo is actually the big final moment that's building up to the end, where I'm going into this faster alternate picking run and then into some tricky sweep picking shapes that require quite some stretching. I think I did manage to get it pretty good yesterday. Hitting that one right here in sync with everybody is actually quite hard, because when you're playing fast lines, your brain is always going like, okay, here comes the tricky part, and you often tend to play it faster than you should because you're always nervous about not making it to that high note in time. So with that one, I really have to pull myself back. I listen closely to the click and to the rhythm section, and I really want to land on the one with that high note after that long alternate picking run. Let's listen to that one again. Here it starts. And now I go into the sweeps. And then another run. This one is more kind of chaotic. The arpeggio. The harmonic. Then the ending. I think that's just kind of a satisfying structure and build up for the solo. It's a bit wild, but I think it still works in a pop rock kind of show band context. And in case you actually missed the rig rundown I posted a couple of days ago concerning the stadium show that we played, I'm playing with a Kemper profiler right now, and we essentially booked a full studio day to kind of shape the sounds how we wanted them for this live production. And I think if you just listen to the full band and the guitar sounds and all of that, it's a completely different story than what you hear in that older 2016 video. So let's listen to one part that I was struggling with, especially in the older video, with the bending at the end of the first guitar solo. Yesterday I managed to get it exactly like I wanted to sound. Here it comes. You might think with all the shredding and the tapping and double tapping in there that those are the most difficult parts, but for me, this expressive bend and hitting the right pitch right here with a little bit of added vibrato, those are actually the details that I really obsess over and that I want to get right every single night. Let's hear that in comparison with the old guitar solo. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but it didn't sound like I wanted it to sound. Another detail that I enjoy much more right now is the actual ending of the song and solo. It's just a super small detail, but I think it sounded a bit weird a couple of years ago. Here it comes. The dive bomb. Somehow not really that satisfying, and the producer and the guy that's essentially in charge of the band, Daniel Fellner, made a really cool suggestion to kind of play these coordinated stops at the end of the solo. Let's see if we managed to do it last night. The drum fill. Yeah, I think that's much more satisfying. So if you are playing in a band and you're working on putting together a live set, please don't neglect those details. If you listen closely to your favorite live bands, that's one of the things that separates the professional amazing bands from the kind of okay live bands. If you hear those song endings where one guitar is just ringing out, all the other guys stop playing, and it's just kind of this weird mess, I just think details like that are often overlooked and very important. One thing that's actually quite interesting is that I had a massive handicap with the show yesterday. It was freezing cold and very windy on stage, and that's a big issue for me when it comes to my fingers, when you don't really feel what you're playing anymore. No joke, I also wore 5 layers of clothing that day. So quick summary, I personally really don't like performing open air shows in autumn or winter when it's getting really cold, but it's just another thing that you have to deal with as a live musician. So in the end, I'm relatively satisfied with yesterday's performance. Of course, it can always be better. And who knows, maybe I get to do this again in a couple of years, to trash talk current me and to go through all the tiny details I could have made even better. Please let me know if we should go even more into live music and performing. Until then, make sure to subscribe so that you stay updated on the channel. Leave a like in case you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again in the next one. Have an awesome day and tons of fun practicing.